What's going on, Goodman Games universe? And welcome to the first episode of Raw for the 2025 new year. Stefan, happy new year, happy
Happy New
holidays.
Year. Yeah, same to you,
How's
Matt.
everything going with you?
Going pretty good. Going pretty good. Hard at keeping the nose down, writing and doing layout, and trying to do my nerd things. How about you?
Same thing. I mean, little holiday excitement, but otherwise staying busy. We've got a lot of cool things coming up for conventions this year and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we've got a John Lindsey is our guest today. And so I was looking through the Dungeon Crawl server and I was like, who's playing Xcrawl? Who's running Xcrawl? And John, why don't you tell him the post you had made recently in the Xcrawl chat room?
Yeah, thanks for that intro, Matt, because I was not looking forward to introducing myself as just some bozo from the internet, but that's where I am. Um, but I was asking in the Xcrawl channel on the Dungeon Crawlers Discord about any adventures that might be best suited for a first-time judge, because I'm looking forward to running my first game, and I'd kind of like to ease into it in a way that is sort of idiot-proof because I don't want to get bogged down too much in page turning and looking stuff up and keeping my
Mhm.
players waiting to do their cool stuff while I'm adjudicating. So
And tell us who you are. So, I mean, I kind of introduced you, but please feel free to let us know who you are in your own words.
yeah, once again, I'm just some bozo from the internet. John Lindsey or Johnny Scraps on Discord. I've been playing TTRPGs on and off for about the last 10, maybe 15 years. Big Call of Cthulhu fan. And Appendix N literature was sort of my gateway to TTRPGs. So I got into playing RPGs right as D&D Fifth Edition was new and shiny, and quickly realized that that was not really for me. But fortunately, my introduction to Dungeon Crawl Classics came shortly thereafter, and I've been obsessed with that sort of Gonzo mentality towards tabletop gaming ever since.
Have you played Xcrawl yet?
I have not been fortunate enough to play Xcrawl yet, but I have been taking in as much Xcrawl material as possible because I've seen a few actual plays on YouTube. I sort of have been digesting everything, every internet appearance that Brendan LaSalle makes as much as I can, and I'm just obsessed with what he's bringing to the community right now. So.
All right, well, Stefan, we're going to talk about the messenger today. What's our? Let's hit John with our first question and get right into it.
Absolutely. Yeah. The first one is can messengers cast spells?
Wait.
Well,
Question zero actually goes between one and two because I started with one and then I was like I made a mistake and I was like I didn't
these
want to
handouts.
rename all the things. So
Yeah,
start with one. Start with one.
you make me start our 2025 broadcast season with a mistake. All right,
No, see,
okay.
that's my mistake though. That's not your mistake. That's my
All
mistake.
right, all right. Question number one. I have to calm down. All right. What is scourge, and what is or scourge damage, and when should it be applied?
So, John, you get the first opportunity to answer any of the questions. So, in your opinion, what is scourge damage, and when do you think you should apply that?
Oh, you're going to make me look at my cheat sheet here, aren't you? Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
so it looks like scourge damage is to be applied when the messenger strikes a creature that has an alignment that fundamentally goes against the messenger's own alignment.
Mhm.
So it looks like there's some handy tables to help you figure out when that applies. But I'm curious exactly how the nuts and bolts of that work myself.
Yeah, and yeah,
Stefan,
that's essentially it. It's a lot. It's similar to the unholy creatures per DCC, but it's written I think a little more concisely in Xcrawl. And of course, it's written in the style of like, what are you gonna see in that Xcrawl arena?
well, Lane, if you could bring up handout 1A for us. Page 35 in the Xcrawl core book says messengers can add their scourge damage, just like John just read out. But what is scourge damage to you guys? Because what it doesn't say in the book is it doesn't define it. Like it's against the unholy creature, but I've heard scourge damage before in other games, video games, stuff like that, and I was like, what does it mean in Xcrawl though? And so I looked it up, and to scourge is like to hit with a whip. And then I looked up other video games and RPG applications, and it's usually like an area effect where you're whipping or casting damage to, like 4 or 5 guys here. Johnny, in your interpretation, what do you think this scourge damage looks like when a messenger is hitting a unholy creature?
So in terms of how you would actually implement it, I would have to give that some thought. But the gist I would think is that if the unholy creature that they're hitting has similar creatures around it, say it's a group of 6 goblins or something like that, I would assume that within um, a given radius of their actual target, they would probably apply damage to other creatures within that radius as well.
I think
Yeah.
that's a good example. Like that extra die, if it goes over, like Stefan, let's say you're hitting an orc and it takes 1 hit point to kill that orc, but you did 6 damage on your regular dice, and then you rolled your scourge damage and did another 2. Can that damage carry over to the rest of the maybe other couple little orcs hanging by?
No, no, it's just on. I mean, not unless you are doing a something that actually is going to already hit multiple enemies. I think it's a my mind is going to What We Do in the Shadows, that TV show. One of the
Okay, I
characters
watched
in it
that.
has Van Helsing blood, and that character is just like, whether they're even trying to or not, they're very good and kind of prone to killing and hurting vampires. And that is not something they've trained to do. It is a bloodline thing for them, and that's what messengers are. They have bloodline divinity, the literal blood of the gods running through their veins, and so it is the natural hatred for undead, or chaotic warriors, or whatever it is, or lycanthropes, that comes from your lineage. And the god that is your great 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 grandpappy. So that's
Guillermo.
what it
Talking
is to
about
me.
Guillermo. All right, well, Elaine, if you could bring up handout 1B for us, that shows the table 1-14, the messenger table on page 36, and there you got that extra scourge die, scourge, damage dice in there. And then if you could bring up handout 1C for us, Elena, when the messenger summons their holy weapon, and we'll get into that later. There's some abilities on this chart that give superior scourge damage. So if you get into the 26-30 range, you get a plus 1d to scourge damage. If you get 31 or above, you get plus 2d. So let me ask you guys, Johnny, in the descriptions it says messengers add their scourge damage when successfully striking creatures their alignment designates as unholy while using their ancestors' deity's favorite weapon. So let me ask you this. If the favorite weapon is a sword and I'm using a dagger, do I get the scourge damage? And if the favorite weapon is a sword, do I have to summon that sword with my summon weapon ability, or can it just be any sword? What do you think, John?
As far as the example you gave with if the favorite weapon is a sword, you're using a dagger. I would think that no, scourge damage wouldn't apply.
Stefan, what about
In
you?
terms of
Yes or no on that one?
No, uh, for yes, or I forget which is yes and which is no, but I don't think it would apply. It says you have to use the ancestor deity's favored weapon. So
All right.
whatever, if it's yes or no, it's got to be a sword. It says
So since
sword. I
it's
see sword any listed for God of Mars,
so
but I don't think a dagger is really going to cut it.
Since it's a result in the summon weapon messenger ability, do you think it has to be the summon weapon? Because that summons the deity's favorite weapon.
No, I don't think it has to be the summoned weapon, just that type of weapon. I mean, really, if you're like into the role play too, and a lot of what the classes are come from like those role play scenarios and wanting to push, the narrative that you are hopefully going to create with that class. You're going to get some awesome sword, maybe from a temple, maybe from the arena that is your favorite sword and maybe has some kind of specialness to it, but it doesn't have to be the summon thing. You're going to be trying to get that, that favored sword there, or that or that sponsored favored sword.
Johnny, what do you think? And Chris J's out there watching what we do in the shadows too. Good shout out, Chris J. Johnny, what do you think? Does it have to be that summoned weapon, or can it be any weapon?
I don't think it has to be that summoned weapon. You know, with a lot of the different games that I run, I tend to favor the philosophy of giving my players as many opportunities to do as much cool stuff as possible. And I think they should have that opportunity in this particular instance. With any old sword, even if it isn't a day drinker, the preferred weapon of Apollo or whomever. Um, if they get close enough, then yeah, let them have that bonus.
Okay. Bob's in the chat too. How's it going, Bob? So, what is scourge damage? And you're right, there is a typo there, Elena. And when should it be applied? So, final answer. Johnny, we'll just let you give the final answer on this one. What's your final answer? Final determination for that question.
Essentially, if they are, doing combat against some baddies that are fundamentally opposed to their deity, then they get a nice little handy bonus.
All right. Stefan, now we get to go to question 0.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot 0 comes after 1. Can messengers cast spells?
Can messengers cast spells? Johnny, what do you think? Right? What's your impulse answer?
My impulse answer is a qualified no. Um, I mean, there are obviously certain abilities that they have, but I don't think it necessarily counts as spell casting.
And we're
Mhm.
used to the. I mean, the messenger is kind of a cleric equivalent for DCC. We're used to the cleric having their own spell list, but the messengers, they don't have spells like we think of, and so what I love about the Xcrawl classes is they're kind of like mix and mashes of all the
Mhm.
different characters we know before. But if we can bring up handout 0A, please, Elena. Page 35. The messenger channels divine power from their deity, allowing them to perform amazing miracles. So no magic involved, no phlogiston, only holy miracles. Handout 0B goes on to say holy acts count as spells for the purpose of circumstances and abilities that affect spells. So mechanically, according to our rules. For example, mojo points can be added to a holy act. Stefan, what
Mhm.
does this mean that the messengers don't have spells and they only have
That
these holy acts?
I mean, they don't have to look at some big spell list. They've just got what that 3 pages essentially of well 4 really 4.5 um, of what their character sheet or what their character class description actually says there. They're not going to be looking further back in the book though and going, oh, do I get some of the blaster spells? Where's do I have a spell list that picks and chooses? No, you just have what's there mechanically. It's the same D20 plus personality modifier plus your class level, and it gets if you have a magic item that gives a bonus to spells or mojo points that are going towards a spell, it can affect holy acts, but you just have what's here, your lay on hands, your summon weapon, your divine aid, and your turn unholy and bless
So
very
it's
very useful.
it's important to consider the holy acts like spells, but they are not spells. We have to distinguish them as something else, but mechanically they function like spells. So some of the rules around holy acts. So, Lane, if you could bring up handout 0C. Page 70, it says a messenger's holy act check is not affected by armor check. So, in the fact that they are like spells, they don't get affected by armor check penalties, though. So, that mechanic does not affect it. Handout 0D says messengers call upon the power of their own divine blood to commit holy acts. Not so much spells as declarations of power in the name of their god ancestors. In this way, messengers are less spellcasters than conduits of divine power, flooding the world with the spark of Mount Olympus and stranger places. So, Johnny, how do you see when you envision an Xcrawl game and the messenger is stepping into the arena? What's your embodiment of this messenger, and what's their purpose?
That's definitely a good question. Their embodiment. They definitely get to step in and sort of just be this badass voice of God. Obviously in a lot of ways they fill the traditional cleric role, but as with many things in Xcrawl, I think the wording um, that is sort of used around this in the book just gives it a whole new different kind of flavor to it. I sort of see the messenger as having more of this like Solomon Kane like badass vibe that the traditional fantasy RPG cleric just doesn't have to it. So in many ways, it's more of a flavor thing, I think, than a mechanical thing. But yeah, the messenger definitely has a really cool role to fill.
Now, I've got another vision for you, just to throw some variety out there. But I do love the Solomon Kane reference. Now, the next time I'm on stream and I get to play a messenger or the healer in Weird Frontiers, I'm gonna do a brother love character. Maybe put a little rosé on my face, and oh, it's brother love. So I'm seeing a messenger there. Stefan, what does your messenger look like?
Oh, that is a good question. Let me think on it for a minute. I don't
All right.
have I don't have a good answer quite yet.
All right, well, let me go to the last handout here. Elaine, if you could bring up handout 0E, please. Messengers must have a holy symbol to perform any holy act or use their holy blood. So, Johnny, this is not something you can just do willy nilly. You've got to have a symbol of your god. And if you don't, we're going to get into that later. You've got to cut yourself and use some of that blood, wipe it on your face. Is that right?
That's my understanding. One way or the other, God has to be served, whether it's through, like you said, through that actual symbol or through a small sacrifice.
Channel through that idol. Stefan, you got one yet?
All right, I'm gonna for the somewhat of a deep cut. I will play my messenger like the telenovela TV show that is within the TV show King of the Hill, which I cannot remember the name of the guy there, but I just remember the Hispanic, padre with the sunglasses always going Vaya con Dios. So that's me. That'll be me. Just saying Vaya con Dios a whole lot.
That that is a deep cut right there. Oh, Elena just got to mute herself. I'm not going to be able to stop. All right. So, Johnny, you get the last word. Can messengers use spells? Is the specific question.
Yeah, once again, qualified, no. Holy acts, absolutely. Definitely mechanically have some similarities to spells, but spells they are not.
All right. Stefan, what's our next
Very
one?
true. Next up, how does disapproval work for the messenger? We got disapproval. Might have heard of it before, DCC heads out there. But is it the same?
That's the question. Yeah. I mean, we're familiar with the cleric, we're familiar with disapproval.
Mhm.
Johnny, similarities, differences, is disapproval the same thing as far as you understand it?
Oh, based on my very cursory sort of glance at that material. I think it's more or less the same. Um, but I am definitely here to learn, so I will let you folks enlighten me.
Oh no, we want you to talk. This show is
No,
your platform.
no, this is where you
But we do
pretend to
have
be
some
the
handouts.
authoritative, judge
That's
on the
right.
matter.
We do have some handouts to get your opinion juices flowing. Lane, if you could bring up handout 2A. So messengers begin each day with a disapproval rating of 1. Stefan, I'm going to ask you,
Mhm.
as I say these, same as DCC?
Yes.
All right. Every failed holy act check adds 1 to the messenger's disapproval rating, increasing their chance of disapproval. Same as DCC?
Same.
And Johnny, so as you understand it, how does that mechanic work? If they fail in a holy act and their disapproval was at 1, they add 1 to the disapproval, and then what do you
Yeah, so
understand happens?
essentially so essentially
Go
every
ahead.
time they add one to their disapproval, uh, so previously you would have to roll a 1 to fumble and gain disapproval. Now you have to roll a 2. If it happens again, now you have to roll a 3. So with each point of disapproval earned there, the odds of goofing up again become greater and greater.
And so what happens if our disapprovals, let's say it's 6, and we roll a number at or below 6?
I have not played or run a cleric, so I'm going to defer to Stefan on
Oh,
that one.
okay.
All
Yeah,
right.
if
Okay.
if you got a disapproval of 1 to 6 because you failed that many times, and you say roll a 5, that, and even though your result is going to be modified out of that 1 to 6, it is the natural roll you're looking for. That, so even though, modified outside of that, the natural roll was a 5. That's lower. That's 6 or lower. So we get disapproval,
And so Stefan,
and uh,
is it a D4? So that would be 5D4, right?
that would be 5d4. Yes, sir.
All right.
So,
So I think I'm
and
getting the
that's what,
gist of
whatever
it.
the number is on the die, that's how many d4 you are rolling. So, and our disapproval table goes up to 20, which, like if you get a 2 on there, -1 to, holy acts, and turn unholy until you publicly pledge to donate 10% of your Xcrawl prize money from your current adventure to a worthy cause of the deity's choice. Not
You
another
know,
PC, it says there.
the deities require their tithing. Elaine,
Hmm.
if you could bring up handout 2B for us. Page 35 goes on to describe the holy axe check. If it results in a natural 1, that means the messenger has earned the disapproval of their deity. The attempt automatically fails, and the messenger must roll on table 7-7 disapproval. So, Johnny, as I understand it, I think, let's say we were crazy. We did divine aid. We did, failed 5 spells before that. So, Johnny, let's say something crazy that our disapproval's at a crazy 15, right? And I'm trying to attack a monster whose AC is 12. I roll a 14, right? So it should beat that AC
Well, you're probably not doing
attack.
the AC because it's not
That's a
attack.
bad
But
example.
mm.
Thanks, Stefan. I just
You're
got
trying to
there in my head.
summon a blade, a holy blade, and you roll that 12 or 14. You said.
Yeah. So if I roll a success, but it's under the disapproval, Johnny, do you think that's auto failure, or would you let that slide?
Oh
At your
man,
table.
that's one of those cases where I want to let it slide, but I'm not gonna.
All right.
That's
Good man.
time to roll on that disapproval table.
All right.
Good man.
As
Yeah.
well you should. Because, yeah, 12D4.
And
Uh,
does hitting disapproval? It is a failed roll after all. Does that also increase your disapproval for further occurrences?
Sadly,
I
it
don't
does.
think so. Does it? All right.
It
Let's
doesn't
see.
say it
Let's look at
doesn't.
it.
It says any failed roll.
It does. It says every failed holy act check. So that would be an
Hmm?
auto failure. So it would have to increase it. Oh,
Yeah.
that's nasty. All right. Handout 2C. I think our last handout for this one. Each morning, the messenger must spend 1 hour in prayer, meditation, and communication with the divine to reset their disapproval back down to 1. This can only be done once per day. Same as DCC, Stefan?
Uh, that is not the same as DCC. In DCC, you have to sacrifice, like, burn gold and stuff to reduce it by 1. Or I believe it's 100 gold will reduce your disapproval by 1 point. So, and you
Or it
can do that
resets
as many,
automatically each
or
day,
it
right?
resets automatically the next day. Yes. So
So,
this automatic goes all the way 1 if you have an hour. So if you got a long, time out in the break room, I suppose, but you're generally not going to have that hour.
that's what I'm saying. So, Johnny, there's a technicality here we might be able to exploit. So, if we don't do, let's say we're going on a multi-day crawl, it would definitely have to be something that's more than 1 day. If we don't sleep and reset the disapproval and wait until an opportune time, yeah, the wheels are
I mean,
turning here.
you could, in my head, it can be like WrestleMania. WrestleMania is like a multi-day event at this point. It goes on for hours and hours each day. You can be like the intro act, and then you have like another like mini thing in the middle. You have your halftime, and halftime goes on for like an hour, and then you complete the crawl later. I mean, I could see it. I could see it. You got to charge a lot for those seats.
All right. So to recap this one, Stefan, how does disapproval work for the messenger?
Any failed roll increases your disapproval. Starts at 1. Any failed roll will make it go up by 1. If you make a natural roll within that range, you have to roll that same number of d4 on the disapproval table. And activating disapproval does indeed count for purposes of increasing your disapproval range. Further, you can your disapproval range automatically resets down to just that natural 1 on the following day, or if you have an hour of prayer, meditation, communication with your divine entity of choice, it can be reset down to 1 time per day. And we didn't mention it, but you have to use a holy symbol of some kind, or some of your own holy blood.
Johnny, when you're playing in a game, let's say, so I know you haven't played the messenger yet, but let's say in your imagination, you've played the messenger, you've got this game going on right now. How does that disapproval look? Or you're running the game because you're thinking about running your first game. How does that look when the god is not happy with their alkalite at your table?
I immediately think of what's the guy from Peanuts? Not Pigpen, but the guy who's always got
Minus?
the rain cloud. The guy who's always got the rain cloud directly over his head. Maybe it's not a
I know
Peanuts
who
thing.
you
Maybe it's
meant.
just a general cartoon thing. But I get that image of like your own personal like thundercloud directly following you around over your head.
I like it.
Maybe there's some pestilence, maybe some raining of toads and stuff like that. But basically your bog standard Old Testament bad portents, bad omens, and ill luck.
Yeah,
All right.
I think of holy symbols cracking. What a Middle Earth god just being like, "You're gonna trip right now." Um, yeah, I love the rain cloud. A little personal. You ask and you look up for that. Beam of light, and just get rained on. I love that too. Or a little bird poop.
Uh,
Who knows?
I mean, think about it in terms of real life. People are always looking up to the heavens and being like, God, why have you forsaken me? What are they forsaking you from? We're in an Xcrawl tournament. All of a sudden, Johnny just got his arm cut off. And I'm like, no! Olympus, why did you cut Johnny's arm off? Bad things can happen to people around you, too, that you care about, your team members. So it could extend out maybe a little bit.
And I'll say
But
thank you, Bob, in the chat. Schleprock from the Flintstones, Pebble, and Bam Bam cartoons.
all right, there we go.
Not Peanuts.
Deep cut there too. I didn't even know that
Yeah.
guy had a name.
All right, now it's your turn,
All right.
Matt, for finding the deep one.
All right. Well, Stefan, what's our next question?
Can any weapon be called forth with the holy act of summon weapon?
All right, Johnny, what do you think? So if I use that summon weapon ability, can I say, "Hey, Olympus, can I get a spear this time?" A spear would really be great if his weapon is a warhammer. I'm not sure what his weapon is.
I tend to think no. I think as written, it refers to a specific favored weapon of that deity. But again, as judge, there's times when you're going to fudge that and make allowances for things that might make your players have an easier time or more opportunities to do cool stuff. But it's a case by case thing, I think.
Stefan, how
Yeah.
does a summon weapon work for the messengers?
Uh, by default, the answer is no. It says mundane, like 12 to 18 is mundane version of deity's favored weapon, and then 19 to 25 superior version. With the implicit of the deity's favored weapon, and it goes on from there. So I could see you wanting to fudge it a little bit, but the player's gonna have to give me like a really good argument, and I'm probably just gonna I might say yes, but give him a point of disapproval.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Well, let's look at some handouts. Rules is written. Handout 3A, if you would please, Elena. Page 37 tells us that messengers can summon their deity's favored weapon. This weapon appears in the messenger's hand or in the hand of a designated ally the messenger can see. So you got one stipulation there that you have to be able to see them. Summoned weapons remain in the material world for one turn per CL class level, after which they disappear and return to Mount Olympus. So you've got it for at least 10 minutes at level 1, which is pretty convenient. And if you could bring up handout 3B, Elena, this is the chart that Stefan was talking about on page 37 as well. It's a holy act check, D20 plus your personality modifier plus your level. Failure increases in this disapproval range if you get this, if you miss this check. But favored weapon, Johnny, this is the first time that we have mentioned in a XCC product of a superior version of the weapon. Have you played D&D before? Are you familiar with other D&D, first, second, third, fourth, fifth edition?
Most of my D&D experience has been with BX. So yeah, a little bit, but
I don't think there were superior weapons, but I think at one point there was a version where you had superior weapons, crafted by the dwarves or elvish weapons, and they were like +1 or super sharp and did bleeding.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think they're called masterwork. Or
Masterwork weapons. This is our first introduction to a different version of a weapon in DCC kind of culture. What do you think, Stefan?
I mean, I don't. It's not quite there. There's an adventure here and there where you'll see like it's not magical, but it's so exquisitely crafted. You get a +1 to hit, but not damage. So there's precedence for it, but you're throwing it in a core book now, so that's gonna get a lot more eyes on it than like my mind goes to. I think like the 2020 free RPG Day adventure had a trident like that in it. That's going to be a little hard to find and reference for a lot of folks.
All right. Well, so the reason I'm kind of asking, Johnny, is because me and Stefford are going through your crawl. You're running a crawl. You're a DJ, scraps, and is there an opportunity there or a chance to get superior weapons before you even get into a crawl? Let's say we're third or fourth or higher level. Do we have superior weapons already?
oh, again, I think that's really going to be a flavor thing, and depend on the setting and everything. I think that's a really cool opportunity to set up, the idea of sponsorships and stuff like that. Maybe some sponsors are handing out some weapons that give you an edge to hit or something like that. So should there be opportunities like that? Hell yeah. Uh, I think the more tools your players have in their toolbox before they even start, the more fun everybody's going to have in a lot of instances.
All right, so like I don't know if it's a deep cut, Stefan. Like maybe for you younger guys, but so let's say we've got like Spacely Sprockets, and they make superior versions of weapons. You know who Spacely Sprockets is?
I'm not remembering it. All right, so
All right,
you've got it.
that's where George Jetson worked in the Jetsons
Okay,
cartoon from.
I was like, I know this is Spacely Sprockets. It's either from an old Hanna-Barbera or this is like a rival company at, on Speed Racer.
So I mean, yeah, sponsorship right there. Spacely Sprockets makes superior weapons. That's like the only place you can get them in this town or something like that. I could see it.
Yeah.
But Elaine, if you'll bring up our last handout, handout 3C, this is a good one right here because this has all the gods of Olympus on it. It has their alignment and has their favored weapon. So, Johnny, one of the other things we're being introduced to is all this plethora of new weapons that we haven't seen yet. A whip, a rapier. Uh, let's see what else is on there. A sickle. Oh, a torch? Oh, I don't know if I want to
Hmm.
have trivia as a god.
Well,
So what do you think about that, Johnny?
I am a huge fan of that. My favorite thing when I'm running any kind of game is, a player takes down the big bad, and I get to look at him and say, "Tell me how that plays out." So the cooler the weapon is, the cooler the narration is, and the cooler the player feels.
Opens up
mhm.
a lot more opportunities for role playing. Stefan, so we don't have any big patron write ups, but if you go to page 252 to 257, and if Elaine will bring up handout 3D for us, it has little blurbs with our gods listed on there. Uh, and it has their weapon, their sacred days, and it has a little blurb about them. So
Yeah.
now, what are we thinking? Because in DCC, if you were in a holy place, the cleric could potentially cast on an upper die. So now I think the question everybody needs to ask whenever you play a game of Xcrawl with anyone is say, what day of the year is it? Because if it ends up being one of your deity's sacred days, I mean, Johnny, Stephanie, can you see precedence
I
for all rolls being 1D plus on that day?
I mean that I might give you +1. Everything being up a die sounds quite generous.
It's a
Um,
holy day. I
yeah.
mean,
Well,
it's a holy day, right, Johnny?
Why, it's Christmas Day, sir. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. Up a whole die does sound a little bit generous, but to your point, a holy day is a holy day, so let them have it.
All right. Oh, if you're playing the messenger, and let's say you happen to pick Cupid, right? Let's see, what are Cupid's days here? How can I? Cupid is the fourth day of every month. So you look at your judge, you look at your DJ, and you just say, "Hey, what day is it?" He says, "Oh, it's like November. Do you want it to be a specific
it's the
day?"
July 4th crawl.
Can we be the fourth? Oh, that's a good one. Uh, then you got a little wiggle room there to get some bonus snuck in. All right.
Mhm.
So what's our final answer for this question here?
Or
Uh,
on the weapon, yeah, can any weapon be called forth with the holy act to unsummon them? Nope. That's what I'll throw out.
yeah, we're getting kind of distracted there. Spacely Sprockets. Johnny, what's your final answer on there? Can I summon any kind of weapon?
I'm largely inclined to agree with Steph, and I'm going to say typically no.
I will say no as well. But it
Yeah.
does have a lot of favored weapons there. What about if the deities are fooling around? Like if man, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, maybe a little crossover.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like if you can do that once, but then your main one's gonna someone's going to get jealous. That's what they're always getting jealous. It's not going to end up good. But I could, hey, players, bring the argument to me as your judge. I'll hear you out.
All right. All right. Well, what's our fourth question?
Number 4, does a messenger apply their luck modifier to turn unholy checks?
All right, Johnny, what's your first thought on this one? So in DCC, the cleric adds their luck modifier to turn unholy. Says it in the messenger. What's your first impression? What's your first thought on this one?
My first impression would be like, yeah, absolutely. But I'm
No,
open to. No, okay.
no, I set you up with this one. So Elaine, if you bring up handout 4A, let's look at turn unholy. Compare it to DCC again. Page 37. The messenger may utilize a holy act check to put the fear of their divine ancestor into unholy creatures. And a holy creature is a being that the messenger's ancestor deity declares unholy. Handout 4B goes on to say on page 100, talks all about turn unholy. Turned monsters usually receive a willpower save to resist being turned. The save is made against the messenger's turn check. Same as DCC, Stefan?
That much is, yeah. But in DCC, yeah, you got to apply the luck check. Often forgotten, often
Okay.
not helpful, but
All right.
it says it there.
All right. Well, so let me ask you if the rest of these compare to DCC. Handout 4C, if you would, Elena. Page 100. A failed turn check increases the messenger's range of natural disapproval, just as with any failed holy act. Same?
Yep. Same.
All right. If a messenger raises their holy symbol to turn a group of mixed creatures, the player should indicate a specific target, apply the results to the turn check based on the HD of the target creature. Same?
Yeah.
Same. And last one for this handout. A turned creature moves away messenger at maximum speed or cowers if unable to retreat for 3d10 minutes. And I had to look this one up. I had to look deep to find it. But this one is the same as DCC as well. And it's in a tiny little script on the bottom of the turn unholy chart.
I mean, well, in DCC, there's the outright chance that you're going to just like kill them or shoot out like burning holy light at them. So that they run away is like the default, the most common, but at higher levels of check versus weak monsters, you can just obliterate a bunch of skeletons. You don't see that here, so a little bit different in that result.
Let's see. Yeah, and so 3d10 minutes. I've never rolled a time limit for turn unholy. I didn't even know there was a time limit.
I've rolled it. So usually I roll it and go, yeah, don't worry about them anymore. They're, hey. And it says that here in Xcrawl too. It says, yeah, I'd probably just take them out of play.
Because, they're not going to be in there for more than, 10, 20 minutes. Otherwise, they fail the room and die, or they get through the next one.
Yeah, that's like television. Speed it up.
Exactly. Handout 4D, page 38. Messengers apply their luck modifier to all rolls of lay on hands and the extra melee attacks associated with two-fisted healing. So they apply the luck to different ones, but it's not turn unholy. That's going to be an important distinction because we, put these two classes. It's going to be very similar for people who play the cleric. Johnny, as you're playing other role-playing games, do you have a lot of crossover between your rules, or do you keep them pretty well sussed out?
There definitely tends to be a lot of crossover for me. I try to keep things simple and consistent as possible. Of course, not all systems are really compatible in a way that allows you to do that. But there are a lot of things that I try to bring with me across the board to keep things, within the same vein at least.
Evan, what about you?
I mean,
you
I think
play
my
a lot
style
of
of ruling.
Yeah,
my how I run is pretty similar, but I play a variety. I can't take all my DCC habits over to Mothership or whatever.
Okay. All right. Well, so everything else is just about the same for Turn Unholy. The one other thing that's pretty different, not pretty different, but different, is the creatures. And I didn't make a handout for this one. But I feel like we had more flexibility in DCC. And I'll tell you, if I ever play a messenger, I almost want it to be neutral all the time because I feel like the neutral messengers have the most opportunities to turn things. Like uh, chaotic ones can turn law stuff, and the law ones can turn chaotic stuff. All of them can turn undead, so you've got the opportunity there. But Johnny, for the neutral ones, they've got like dire animals, elementals, demons, devils, lycanthropes, slimes. And for the law and chaos, you've got the opposing alignment. Would you add any more things in there? So, like for DCC, for example, chaotic guys don't get a lot of love, but they can turn law-based creatures. So things that have like a hierarchy system, kobolds and orcs, where they have like a general that they report to or a chain of command. They follow a law-based chain of command. There's a rule there. Would you let that apply to messengers in Xcrawl?
I don't see why not. As far as adding additional stuff that they'd be able to turn, I'd really have to give that a lot of thought. But yeah, for sure.
Stefan, what's your first
Yeah,
thought on that?
I'd be loose. I'm not looking at the unholy creature list that is given there and thinking, it's giving categories, but they're categories. So by that nature, the list is not meant to be exhaustive. It is meant to be a broad overview. So if it makes sense, then I'll probably just say yeah, and we'll go with it.
Yeah. 'Cause, yeah, for law and chaos, I mean, the only thing you're really going to get a chance to turn is undead, unless you have these specific ones in here, like a lawful holy warrior. Uh, so yeah, I was thinking that I was like, I'm gonna have to choose neutral every time. But anyway, let's get to the end of this question. Does a messenger apply their luck modifier to turn unholy? In DCC, we used to turn unholy, but final answer for me is no, not this time. They get to apply it to other things, but turn unholy does not get the luck. So make sure you switch that in your brains. Stefan, what's your final answer?
Yep, same as you, my man.
And Johnny, you get the last word. Anything you want to add on to this one?
I was wrong on that one, but the more you know, it's a big old no.
Yeah, I set you up with that one. Little New Year's mischief. Stefan, what's our next question?
Next one, not so much of a question, but just taking a quick look at the abilities Two-Fisted Healing, Crit versus Unholy, and Holy Blood.
Oh, there you go. We got Grom, who had the 3x D&D. Masterwork weapons are
Yep.
+1 to hit.
That's why I remember it. Yeah, I was looking at it, it's like that's where I started out with the 3.0. But back to games that I still like. Xcrawl. Um
All right.
Two-Fisted
What's
Healing.
so what's our two-fisted healing, right?
Yeah.
Did you read up on this one, Johnny? What do you think it is?
I did not read up on those particular abilities, so I'm going to put on my student hat and let you folks enlighten me.
Oh,
You
okay.
got
I
the
thought we were
email
gonna
with the
develop a new
pamphlet.
class right now, and you're
I
gonna tell us
sent
what
you
it
an
should be.
email with the pamphlet.
That is true, but hey, I'm falling back on my excuse of recovering
All
from
right.
surgery here. So
All
That is
right, all
true. You
right.
just got out of surgery. So handout 5A, if you would please, Elena. The two-fisted healing means that a messenger can make a free D14 attack roll against an adjacent opponent with a one-handed melee weapon on a round when they use their lay on hand ability. The messenger must have a free hand to lay on the ally's wounds. The ally to be healed and the enemy to be struck must be adjacent to the messenger. Stefan, this is
Mhm.
kind of a really big deal.
I mean, it's a D14, so your odds are not as good as you want them to be. But clerics can't do that at all in DCC. Yeah, this is a big move, and clerics and messengers are going to spend a lot of time healing. So this is going to, get them a lot of extra juice, really.
It's a free action, Johnny. So if
Yeah.
let's say we've got a strength bonus, let's say we've got a scourge bonus. So even though we're rolling a D14, if we're fighting something unholy, we're going to get that extra bonus. So before you could heal, your kind of action was done. Johnny, what does it mean to be able to open up that where I can heal and I can punch and do some damage too, or stab?
Yeah, I think that's really, really awesome in terms of making sure that your messenger isn't a one-note character, as can sort of happen with the cleric sometimes, where you just get stuck in this position where you're healing and can't do anything else. But I think the fact that it's a D14 roll, even if you have those bonuses applied, I think that keeps it really balanced.
Mhm.
So, even just from this sort of high-level overview, I'm pretty gassed about that. That's really awesome.
Yep, yep.
I
And
agree.
Bob again in the chat saying, "Hey, it's your equivalent of getting a shield bash with a full strength
Yeah.
weapon." So kind of using the mechanics you've seen before in DCC in very new and interesting ways.
I mean, it opens up a lot because, I'm hurt. Stefan's got to spend one round healing me. Johnny's hurt. Stefan's got to spend another round healing him. I get hurt again. Stefan's got to come over and heal me before I go down. You've just spent half the combat and not doing exciting things except supporting your fellow cast. So this allows you to get in there and
Mhm.
get some action and take part of the fight. So very exciting. What's our next ability that we're looking at, Stefan?
The crit versus unholy, which is pretty easily explained. If something is unholy to you, you have a better chance to crit it.
What does that mean? Better chance to crit.
Expanded range. So at level 1, it's all the same. But at level 2, if it's unholy to you, you look up on table 1-14, the messenger's main what you get is you advance table. It's a 19 to 20, and if you get all the way up to level 10, 15 to 20, natural roll of that. I mean, you also have to hit. 15 doesn't guarantee a hit, but it will. If it does hit, it will be a crit. And you're going to get that on anything that is unholy, aka evil to you.
All right. Lane, if you could bring up handout 5C, that'll show us table 1-14. And Stefan, Johnny, if you look at the chart right there, there's 3 18s, and then it goes to 16 and down to 15. Now, if you look at the fighter crit table, the warrior crit table in DCC, the maximum it goes down to is 17, I think. This one goes down to 15. But is it a typo there that 17 is missing? Should we take advantage of this loophole right now
It,
before it gets
until that
fixed?
second printing comes. No, I
Johnny,
mean,
what do you
we
think? Do you
shall
think
see.
17 is intentionally left off, or is it a mismatch there?
Oh, I don't know. I'm inclined to think it's a mismatch, but again, I mean, ink on paper is what matters, right? Sometimes.
I
Was
mean,
it
there's no
from having to
17.
do fiddly little tables in layout myself? It's very easy to accidentally mess a little thing up, and they all look the same when you're doing those class tables. So it, high, I would say, decent chance for my own just personal experience, but who knows?
Maybe it was meant to go 17, 16, 15. I mean, 15 is already really low, so I'm excited
Yeah,
about that. But now we need a 10th level messenger. But what's our
yeah.
last ability we're looking at, Stefan?
The holy blood, which to get out, we said earlier you've got like bloodline divinity from some god in ancient years, and basically it says if you don't have a holy symbol, you cut yourself, do 1 point of damage, and the blood on your skin functions as holy blood for the encounter. So you just for it sounds like basically until your blood dries, it counts.
Now, I'm loving this one because, Johnny, that means I have holy blood coursing through my veins that I can use as a holy weapon. So let me take you a step further and tell me if you're going to allow this for me. I cut my blood and use it as holy water, a weapon, against turn unholy creature. If my blood is unholy, think about how we use like holy water in D&D or DCC. We use it as a weapon, right? If my blood is holy, can I use my blood as a weapon?
I'm going to say not only do I allow you to do that, but I also give you a point of mojo for thinking of it. Because I'm totally down with that metal album art concept of flinging your unholy blood on somebody. Yeah, absolutely.
Stefan, I want to say there was a Robert Kirkman show on Cinemax or something about some guy with blood, and he would take the unholy creatures or demons and make them drink his blood, and that would change them or kill them or change them back to normal people. And I think
Sounds
it was
pretty
only like
metal,
on
but I
for
don't know.
it was only on for like a season or two, and man, I love that show, but I can't think of it. Robert Kirkman, somebody in chat.
That's
look
why they
that up.
canceled it, because you and everyone else couldn't remember it.
But yeah, I think it was from a comic, but there was something to do with blood, and this guy could.
All
But
right.
so you got a guy down, and you slam your messenger blood in there, Stefan. Can I use that to choke him out and kill him?
I mean, typically in the movies, the cross is burning the vampires when they touch it. Not always if they're a really powerful vampire. Who knows? I'd allow it. That sounds pretty fun. I feel like this is a ability that came straight from players, not the judges. It came from someone going, "So Brendan, let me get this straight," and him be like, "Okay, all right, yeah, that's a good one."
That's a good one. All right, so Traveling Now says no, he wouldn't allow it. Bob found the show. It's called Outcast, and I think there's only like 2 seasons, but it was great. So watch it if you haven't seen it. And then Traveling Now says, what if a vampire tries to feed off the messenger? I'm thinking that's
Well,
it's like
depends what
drinking
kind of
dead.
vampire, and hey, maybe they're getting juiced up from that.
It's like
Depends.
drinking dead blood.
Who knows? Depends on
All
your
right, well,
alignment,
Stefan,
your god.
we're running out of time. Take
We
us
are.
through the 2 Fisted Healing real quick. Give us a rundown real quick.
We already did it. We did all these. We have to go to our last question
All
because we're
right,
almost out
keep
of
going.
time.
Let's go. Last
What is the
question. That's it.
messenger's individual mojo earning condition?
All right, Johnny, do you got the sheet there for the mojo? Can you got it?
I don't have it in front of me, actually.
All right. Let's see here.
Conjuring up them. I'm sending you the memories.
Bring up handout 6A, please, for us, Lena, if you would. The mojo individual converting condition is messengers gain a mojo point for bringing an ally back from 0 hit points, and for every successful turn unholy check, turn unholy attempt. So again, you don't get that luck bonus, but if you're successful, does that mean successful in turning something, Stefan, or
think
successful
that
in the roll?
I think in the roll, like they could still pass their will save to ignore the turn unholy, but you would still get a point of mojo for it, which I love because turn unholy is so good in DCC and it's so often forgotten.
Johnny, let me ask you, if we get a point of mojo for a successful turn unholy, if I'm trying to turn a vampire, like Traveling says, and the vampire has 5 hit dice, but I only roll a successful check to turn a 3 hit dice creature, do I still get the mojo, even though the check was successful, even though the guy wasn't turned?
Ooh, I think as written, since the check was successful, then yeah, you get the mojo.
I think you're
But
right.
then again, that's I'm going to qualify that because with stuff like mojo or Lankmar fleeting luck, it's candy. I'm giving it out. I'm giving it out. I'm giving it out. So
That's an excellent point.
I'd say yes, but I'm not gonna let you get it a second time if you're just looking to abuse it, which sounds like not.
Stefan, it does
play.
say attempt. It does say attempt for every successful turn unholy attempt.
Yeah. I don't care. Man.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Just like Brendan, like when we had him on last time, there's a couple times where you were like this, and he was like, "No."
I did.
Yeah. So no, that's gonna be one of those like, no, that it's not gonna work.
All right, And so bringing back an ally from 0 hit points, does that mean they have to go down, Stefan?
I mean, to 0. I mean, I guess maybe they can have like some blood rage or something. Something that lets them be at 0 but still go another round. So I mean, they could technically be up if they got something special going on. But yeah.
All right. Well, Johnny, thanks for coming on. Do you feel a little more confident in running your first game now?
Absolutely. This has been really enlightening on a lot of levels, and really appreciate the opportunity to be here and hang out with you folks.
Are you running online or in person?
I'm going to be running online. I'm sort of debating still whether it's something I want to set up on the Dungeon Crawl server, or something I want to try to open up to my less nerdy friends. Because Xcrawl is cool in that I think it holds a lot of appeal for people who haven't played TTRPGs, as frequently as some of us. But it's also really appealing to veterans as well. So.
Well, Johnny, get well.
Mhm.
Thanks for coming on the show. And yeah, if you guys want to interact with Johnny Scraps, he can be found on the Dungeon Crawler server. Stefan, what do you got
Mhm.
going on?
I'm
Something's
launching a
coming
big
up.
old Kickstarter in 1 week. Goodman Games has Terror from the Underdeep, a whole lot of giants down there in a, what's that called when 2 people invent the same thing or a similar thing at the same time, but they knew nothing about it? Whatever that term is that I can't remember right now. I've been working on giants for a few years
Coincidence.
too. Coincidence. There's a fancy word for it though. There's a
Coincidence.
fancy. All right. But yeah, a whole mess of giants and a whole lot of Peter Mullen art, and you can see it on there. I dropped the link in the chat. It's called The Conquest of Chaos. It's over on BackerKit, and I'm making it's going to be a big hardcover. It's going to be like 100 pages with 6 adventures, go all the way up 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So please
Well,
check it out.
let me tell you. So I went to the Terror from the Underdark or Underdeep.
Deep.
I don't play 5e, right? So I was gonna
Yeah.
skip this one, but one, they had a $2 module, so I was like, all right, I gotta back it just to get the $2 module. Like I
Gotta
can't
check
pass
that
up a
out.
deal.
Yeah.
I love deals, so I was like, I gotta get the $2 module. So then I went in there and I was like, oh, they got inspiration tokens. I said, well, 6 of them for $15. I got to put one of those on my order too, because you're not going to be able to find the inspiration tokens. They're going to be first print, blah 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 blah. But I was sad because I was like, I don't play 5e, so I'm not going to back this, and I want giants. Stefan's got me covered with his giants.
I got you.
And
You go
DCC.
over there. You can get your giant minis. You can get your free day 1 D24. You can get a bunch of adventures that are still from brilliant minds. You can probably convert over to DCC because they're still going to be awesome, and you're going to want to do it. But yeah,
Oh,
if you want DCC giants ready made, I got you. Just wait 1 week.
traveling now found the fancy word convergence, or Diego says synchronicity.
I feel like there's something else out there, but I thank you both for trying to figure it out. Send us your letters at we don't have an email at we-don't-have-an-email.com.
Send your
And
letters
correct
to
us.
Julian Bernick at
Oh, that's right.
spellburn.com. If you want to see anything on the show, send emails to Julian. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. We will see you in 2 weeks' time, where our guest is going to be. I'm going to throw another deep cut out here. Our guest is going to be Shazama Pajama. That's not Pajama Sam. It's Paul Karowski. Do you know who Pajama Sam is, Stefan?
Oh, I know Pajama Sam. I played those.
Okay, all
I,
right.
I know about Freddy Fish and Spy Fox too.
There you go. There you go. There's my deep cut.
Yeah.
So thanks, everybody. We'll see you in a couple weeks' time. Johnny, thanks again. Elena, thank you.
Vaya con Dios.
We're out.